the response of Fistful of Steel. There's been a lot of comments lately about the Leopard 2 and the Abram A1, A2 Abrams. Well, first off, let's let everybody know what the Leopard 2 and what the Abrams have in common. The chassis is identical. If people don't understand, the Abram was based on the Leopard 1, and the chassis is identical. The gun and optics are identical, the 120mm. So that's kind of hard to say that they're outmatched in class. The optics are identical. Amazing. And what is different? The engine of the Leopard 2 is a diesel maritime engine, and of course the Abram has the turbine engine. There has been a lot of reports, and especially when I was in Iraq, there was a lot of guys on the Abram tank crews that I asked that said they despise a turbine tank. It guzzles like it's cool. If it's in a sandy or windy environment, you have to run out there like a bunch of ants and throw on the tarps really fast. So, yeah, I've heard that the turbine, is not as reliable as a diesel engine. To me, reliability is much more important than high-tech, high-speed, oh, I got a cool turbine engine, when a diesel engine actually makes the Leopard 2 go faster and is actually more reliable and has more fuel economy. Three really good things. However, the armor thing, no. The armor of the Abram and the Leopard 2 are equal or so close it doesn't matter. You got to remember that a 120 discarding sabot, it was going to go through the glacis plate of an Abram. An Abram can kill an Abram, so an Abram can kill a Leopard 2, and a Leopard 2 can kill an Abram. It's not, there's no questions of it. I mean, you have a 120mm shell going to maybe a 40mm, discarding sabot round made out of tungsten, going at probably 3 to 4 miles a second. That's a lot of kinetic energy. And if the first round doesn't kill you, well, it definitely immobilized the crew or the tank, and the second shot will kill you. The real question is that a Leopard 2 and an Abram will never combat each other, because Germany and the United States aren't going to go to war with each other anytime soon. So that's something not to ask. The real question is the T-90. First off, the Russians have really never demonstrated a true, genuine test of the T-90's combat effectiveness. If it's anything like the T-72, it's a death trap. The T-90, yeah, if you see all those cool tank shows, you see them jumping around and it goes really fast. Great. Well, it doesn't have the optics that, Allied forces have. That's the biggest thing, is that if I can see you and shoot you further than you can see me, I win, you lose. That's just the name of the game. T-90, it's really low, so it's harder to hit. It's got a 125, not much big difference compared to 120. The muzzle velocity energy is not going to be significantly larger. I would have to say that the Russians would win with the T-90s for the fact is that the Russian tactics is quantity, not quality. And Americans just don't have the numbers that the Russians would have. A T-90 versus the Abram, well, technically speaking, an Abram, I believe, would defeat a T-90 just for the fact that it has better optics. Better gun, better armor? Probably not. T-90 can go a lot faster and has a lot lower profile. However, because that we have more veteran crews of the T-90, the Abram, maybe we may do out. But you gotta remember, there's a lot of veterans in Russia that have been fighting for Afghanistan, Chechnya, and everything else. So there's a lot of veterans in the Russian arsenal. One thing Russians are known for is quantity. They're not necessarily known for quality. Back in World War II, the T-34 was an outstanding tank. It didn't have the best optics, but it had well-sloped armor, and it was a very, very well-designed tank. The Germans had the Panzer III and, the Stug, and they weren't up to match compared to the T-34. But the reason why Russians won, the Eastern Front in World War II, wasn't tactics and better tanks. It was a simple fact of numbers. Even with the T-34 and everything else, the Germans were still able to almost reach Moscow, and being outnumbered 1-7, still had one of the world famous withdrawals in the world, is that it tactically withdrew and amounted immense casualties against the Russians. The Russians just came in droves. That's my 2 cents.